What we're going to do in this part, after in part one we took the time to set up our game space, adding 5 different sprites, adding 2 paddles, and adding 2 scoring lines. We're going to take it a step further now, and we're going to add some motion to the ball, and we're going to go ahead and also add a couple of variables. So one thing to recognize about the Scratch environment is that you're coding per sprite. So if you have the ball selected, any code that you add here is going to only apply to the ball. So that's kind of unique about Scratch. A lot of programming doesn't work that way, but this one does. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take an event of when the green flag is clicked and add that to our game. That means that anytime somebody starts the game, whatever's attached to this code is going to happen. We're going to set the ball to a certain size. So you might already have this from the last one, but we're going to do set size to a certain percentage. Now, because this is going to be a 3-level game, it's quite possible that your ball is going to change sizes depending on what round it is. I'm going to start at 50% just to see what that looks like, and you can go ahead and try and see what you like. So that's 50%, and I think that will be a good starting point, and we can get smaller as we go to the other levels to make it more challenging. I'm also going to want to make sure that the ball starts in the middle. It is very close to the middle right now, but let's put it exactly in the middle by clicking on motion and going to go to X something, Y something. You might remember from the review of the coordinates in the first tutorial that the middle of the screen would be X0 and Y0. Okay, so we can go ahead and stop and start this now, and you can see that the ball is exactly in the middle of the screen. I'm also going to point the ball in a different direction. So that is going to be also in this area. We can see point in direction 90 degrees, which would be immediately to the right. But I don't think it's a very good game design to have the ball go directly towards where the paddle already is. So let's go ahead and alter the path of the ball a little bit. Let's make this a 45-degree angle so that it's going to go up here instead. Now, right now, if I pressed run, nothing would really happen because we pointed in a direction, but it's not actually asked to move anywhere. So now we're going to go down to the control area, and we're going to get forever blocks. This should be familiar to you from code.org, which taught you what forever loops were. We're going to add it right underneath of that, and we're now going to ask the ball to have some motion to move a certain amount of steps. So I'm going to put the move 10 steps inside the forever loop. And again, depending on how you adjust this number, let's take a look at what it does. Okay, so there we go. And if I move that to a higher number, let's say 50, and press stop and press start again, well, you can see how much faster that was. Okay, so that's going to be way too fast for the first level. Let's just leave it at 10 for now. That seems to be a good amount of steps. Okay, so it does 10 steps and then it goes back through the loops and does 10 more steps, but it's doing this so quickly that it kind of looks like a fluid motion for the ball. You can also see, I draw your attention to the fact of this yellow highlight right now. This becomes very important in Scratch. The yellow highlight is basically what is currently running in your game. So we can see that this code is actually being asked to run. We have a problem though, the ball kind of hit up here and then it just went astray like that because it's not given any direction of what to do if it hits a corner of the screen. This is the entire game space of our game, so if it hits it, it acts a little bit funny. So we're going to go ahead under motion and we're going to look for a command that says if on edge bounce. And we're going to go ahead and add that inside the forever loop. Now you can see automatically as it hits that, it's constantly moving 10 steps, but it's also checking to see if it hits an edge. And if it does, it kind of has this physics maneuver in it where it's asked to bounce off the edge. So that's some pretty good progress there for the ball. Let's go ahead and stop that for now. I do want to keep these tutorials short so that you can do one little thing and be happy with it. But again, whenever you do something good, let's go ahead and press File, Save Now, so that it records, and in case you have computer problems, you'll at least have that. One other thing I want to mention right from the start is what commenting your code means. So we have the ability to explain our code to others. Now, in a game like this, where it's being programmed all by one person, that doesn't really matter too much, but it's about habits. And some of you might go on to code in real life and as a profession even. And if you're coding a big software program, like for example, Call of Duty, you're going to be doing that with hundreds of other programmers. Now, if that's the case, you might be doing one small section of the game, and it becomes really important for you to explain what you're doing. So I'm just going to right click on a piece of code like this. I'm going to say add comment, and I'm going to explain with just like an English sentence what that piece of code is doing. So this sets the ball to the middle of the screen. And therefore, somebody who knew nothing about coordinates and how they work in Scratch would at least have some idea what that piece of code is doing. Now, how much do you have to comment? Well, that's up to you. I'll be looking when I mark this for, a significant amount, 10 to 20 comments throughout, just kind of explaining some of the more difficult steps or some of the less obvious things that are happening in your game. It'd be great if you could explain with comments the unique features of your game after you have this down and you're looking to add things that maybe I don't have in my game. That would be a great thing to comment. Okay, so we have that, and we're going to end the first tutorial with a bit of talk about variables. So any game is going to have variables because that's going to keep track of scores and things like that. So let's go down to the orange variable section. We're going to say make a variable, and a variable is just an amount that's going to change throughout the game. So we need a player 1 score, and we can leave it for all sprites. I'm going to go ahead and press OK on that. We're also going to need a computer score. And again, it can be for all sprites. We're going to press OK on that. It makes sense to put the location of the scores near the paddles. So if this is my computer paddle, I want my computer score up there. And if this is my player paddle, then I want my player score up here. So that's one thing that I really like about Scratch. It does kind of show you very obviously what the values of those variables are. You can see that there's check marks over here, and if at any point you don't want to see them, you can just simply uncheck them. But they will be there by default, and it is good while you're testing your game, especially to have your variables on the screen so you can see if it's working or not. So that was tutorial number 2. We talked about how to make the ball move. We talked about how to add variables and how to comment your code. Stay tuned for part 3. And don't forget to save. File, save now. See you next time.